All right, just a quick look at this Lenovo Tab M11 with Tab Pen. That's really the whole reason I bought this tablet is because of the pen and the price. We'll start off with that. This is a cheap tablet. I paid $199 Canadian with the pen. I'll put on the screen $199 Canadian into US dollars. I think it's about $150 or a little bit less than $150. So from here on out, I'm going to call it a $150 tablet. And my expectations and your expectations, of course, should be that of a $150 tablet. Don't expect it to have the best Snapdragon processors or an OLED screen, amazing cameras. You gotta lower your expectations here. So, yeah, there's the receipt. $199.99. In the box, quickly, I just wanted to show what was included in the box. There's a little SIM, well, it looks like a SIM removal tool. Of course, it's not really a SIM removal tool in this case, but we got the cable, the charging cable, of course, USB Type-C, and a little charging adapter. Believe that in 2024, they actually include the little charging brick. I believe it's 15 watts, and I believe that's all the tablet needs or can use. So with a 6,000, I believe it's a 6,000 milliamp hour battery in this thing. Don't expect it to charge super quickly, but again, it's a cheap tablet. These are the kinds of things you should expect. There's the tablet. It's an 11-inch screen, or like a 10.9. There's not a lot of information on the box. It tells us it's a 10.95-inch IPS screen. It doesn't tell us what the resolution is. It tells us it's an octa-core processor. It doesn't tell us what processor it is. And, you know, it doesn't tell you how much RAM does this thing have? How much storage does this thing have? Nowhere on the box does it tell you. Even this fine print here, I don't think. Which, first of all, yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I take that back. We're going to have to zoom in here. Yeah, so I guess I take that back. We got 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. But yeah, that's tiny. I mean, that's compared to the end of the pen. That's very, very tiny text. Yeah, I don't think there's any mention of the fact it has an SD card slot, which it does. So, again, that little SIM removal tool. On the side, we have a little, it looks like a little SIM tray. And that'll pop out for your SD card. Yeah, on the tablet itself, we got the Type-C port on the end there. We've got 4 speakers, so there's 2 speakers on either side. We got the power button on the top. Got your volume buttons on the side. And a little headphone jack in the corner, which I did not notice at first. Literally the first day I had this, I thought, oh, too bad there's no headphone jack on it. Well, there it is. It's just so far off in the corner that the headphone jack kind of doesn't quite go in all the way, you could say, but I mean, it works fine. I'm actually happy it has the headphone jack. Of course, on the back, we've got the camera, a whole 8 megapixels, if that. Again, it's a cheap tablet, but I gotta say, it's got pretty decent speakers, it's got pretty decent battery life, and again, the main reason I bought it is for the pen. So let's take a look at the tablet in action. All right, so let's take a look at it. Initial impressions with the screen were that it looks pretty good. Again, it's an IPS panel. It has pretty decent contrast ratio. You know, the blacks are pretty dark. The whites are nice and bright. Everything kind of pops. It's 1920 by 1200, if I recall correctly. So like 16 by 10 instead of 16 by 9. Fairly common with tablets to be a little bit wider in this aspect, or you could say a little bit taller in this aspect compared to 16 by 9. And I think that makes sense. So yeah, 1920 by 1200 IPS, 90 hertz, which again on paper sounds great, but I don't know if that's going to come across in camera. The motion clarity isn't great. And moving stuff around on the home page is one thing, but watching YouTube is another. You know, one of the first videos I watched just so happened to be Tech Dweeb, and it was, what video was it? It was a video about making videos. And yeah, the initial impressions of this screen being good, well, they wore off pretty quickly. And again, I want to keep it in context. I know this is a $150 tablet. You know, I'm not expecting it to match the screen on my Pixel, you know, the OLED screen on my Pixel. But, you know, I'm running a cheap IPS LG television, nothing fancy, no local dimming zones. It's just a standard, you know, LED, LCD, you know, TV. And my monitors, you know, they're just IPS. TV's only 60 hertz. One thing I noticed with this was the motion clarity. When Tech Dweeb moves his hands around a lot, it almost looks like 30 hertz, to be honest. My 4K TV, when I first plugged my home theater PC into it, for some reason it defaulted to 30 hertz. And I was watching YouTube on it, and I'm just like, it feels like I'm drunk. Like something just doesn't look right. And of course, I went into the settings and I realized it was, for some reason, set to 30 hertz, and I set it to 60. But that's what this looks like. There's a lot of motion blur. The pixel response time doesn't look like it's very good. This screen, for being 90 hertz, has terrible, terrible motion clarity. But it's worse than that. There's something with the way subtle colors are handled, highlights especially. There's a lot of details in highlights that gets washed out. And again, Tech Dweeb, you know, when he gets a lot of purple hues going with this purple lighting, it just doesn't look good. It looks worse than my TV, my computer monitor, and again, my phone, which is an OLED screen and is not a fair comparison. But even at this price point, I think some of the Samsung tablets might have a better screen. It's not pleasant to watch YouTube on. People's skin looks pale. You lose a lot of detail whenever there's subtle lighting. I don't know. I don't like this screen very much for media consumption. I wouldn't want to watch YouTube on it. But that's just me. Again, the contrast and the viewing angles and the initial, you know, pop of the colors. It it looks like it would be a good screen, but it doesn't take long before you start to feel like something's just not right. And again, considering it's a 90 hertz display, that's a little strange. But again, I don't want to dwell on that too much. Again, it's a $150 tablet. I'm sure there's been $150 tablets in the not too distant past that had worse screens on it than this. So it is what it is. It's not the best screen, but we're going to look past that. The main reason I bought this is for the pen. This is a smart pen. It's got a battery in it, a quadruple A battery, not a triple A battery, a quadruple A battery. And these are pretty common in these kind of smart pens. So not too hard to find. My local drugstore does carry these. I don't know what the battery life on the pen is. You know, it may be hundreds of hours, and if I'm not using it all the time, you know, it may last a year or more, but I really don't know at this point. Buying this for the pen at $150, it's basically a toy. I basically bought this to doodle on. So I installed this free program, and what is this program even called? I already forget. Sketchbook. So I just went to the Play Store, searched, drawing, and looked at the first few, suggestions that came up. And this one was free, or at least has a free version. There is a paid option to get some premium features. But yeah, it seemed to have a good, it seemed to have a good review. So I've been drawing on this a little bit. The first thing I drew on here is my car. So we got my GLI, and you can see the layers in how, I started off with a really rough sketch just to get the basic shape, and then kind of worked on top of that. So you got layers in all your different pens. But again, this is a smart pen, so I'm going to try to show you what that means. Okay, so it has pretty good palm rejection. I can just rest my palm on here, and it's going to have pressure sensitivity to it. So the harder I push, the darker it gets. And we can go to the fountain pen and see the same thing. The harder I press, the thicker the line gets. And yeah, it works pretty well. So just as a fun little toy to doodle on, it works pretty well. So that's the main reason I bought it, and for that reason, I'm quite happy with it. For $150, I also, factored in the pen. This pen, in my opinion, is worth probably $40. If you had to buy this pen on its own, they probably charge even more for that. One really cool thing, and it might be hard to see here, is you can kind of see it. I'm going to switch the color to black because it might be a little bit more noticeable. But is just getting close to the screen, it detects when you get close to the screen. I'm not even pressing down yet. I'm not even touching the screen yet. So it knows when you even just get close to the screen, it detects it. So it's pretty cool. And again, for a $150 tablet, I bought it for the pen as a toy to doodle on, just for fun. And again, for that purpose, it's a win. So everything else beyond that for me, the fact it has a headphone jack and I can use it as a MP3 player just to listen to like Spotify on, that's great. The screen might not be the best, but again, it's a $150 tablet. The screen's okay. In a pinch, sure, it's fine. It's just, again, I've got better ways to watch YouTube. So, if I have to bring it camping with me and to watch a movie on, it's fine. It will get the job done. You can say the same thing about the camera, of course. It's not amazing, but will it get the job done? Sure, it'll get the job done. Actually, it can focus in pretty close on things, so that's cool. Just a single lens. There's no macro lens. It's not going to have probably depth information. Again, it's a cheap tablet. I don't expect it to have an amazing camera. I don't expect it to have an amazing processor or amazing performance. Now, I was curious. I've got this thing. Hey, can we play some games on it? And I'm not one into Android games or playing games on a phone or a tablet, so I'm talking about emulation here. So I threw a couple emulators on here to start. I put DuckStation on here with some PlayStation 1 games, and running Crash Bandicoot here at 3x scaling. This is 720p. It ran really well. I was actually kind of shocked. So I tried turning it up to I believe a 5x scale, which is 1080p, native resolution of the screen. And again, shocked. It runs great. So I was like, okay, this is cool. Got my hopes up. I thought, let's try some Wii emulation. And well, as you can see, Mario Kart Wii on here, not running so great. So again, maybe there's some settings I can tweak, but I tried OpenGL and Vulkan, and this is just that native, not even doing 720p, and it's just chugging along. So I don't think it has the power for GameCube or Wii or anything like that, but I was surprised how well it handled PS1. All right, so what else is there to say? Well, I'll go into the settings. I'll show you what version of Android it's running. I believe it's 14, although I think it was like 12 out of the box. So it has gotten a few updates since I got it. Yeah, Android version 14. All right. And yeah, we can see the CPU there. It's a MediaTek Helio G88. If you know what that is, great. If not, it's an entry-level 8-core processor. And as we saw, it can't handle Wii emulation. 4 gigs of RAM. And yeah, that's about it. I thought somewhere in the settings you'd be able to change the refresh rate on the screen, but they don't show it anywhere, because usually if a screen's over 60, somewhere in the settings you'll have an option if you want to run it at, like in this case, 60 or 90, as 60 would maybe save a little bit of battery life. But yeah, no luck. There's nothing in the settings, but it is running at 90 hertz. Is that an advantage in any way? I don't think so, because again, the motion clarity on this, in my opinion, is no better than any 60 hertz panel that I've ever seen. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's a spec on the box, but I certainly don't think you're buying it because it's 90 hertz. You're buying it because it's $150, and honestly, $150 with the pen is pretty awesome. So, yeah, I guess that's it. See you guys later.